Evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar tonight with Professor Stephen Mayer, who's going to talk about the 10 Commandments of Networking. We really do appreciate everyone taking time out of their weekend to join us on this Sunday night and really be here in a time of where we can learn some things. We potentially use this for your potential futures. With that said, I just wanted to highlight a couple of great things that we have going on at the Career Center and just go over a couple of ground rules for tonight. In addition to CareerLink, which is YUCL, this last week we launched our new Canvas page within sort of the Career Center, and we have this great landing page, especially if you're a Sci-Sims major or you're from one of the other schools or you're undecided. We have a great majors and industries guide that you can really check out and learn a lot about. We really do appreciate Professor Mayer doing this tonight, and we really do thank the Sci-Sims School of Business for letting us have this great event. With that said, we would really appreciate it if you kept yourself muted this evening, as we have a number of guests here tonight, just so that we can hear the professor and really sort of work towards making sure that this is in the best presentation possible so that everyone could hear, and the slides also can be shown in a great manner. If you have questions tonight, you can just post them in the chat. Just go ahead and type them in the chat. Just let you know, we will not be saying any of your names tonight when we ask the questions. And we would appreciate if everyone could ask those questions via the chat, just so that we don't have any problems with the audio. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to the professor. I'm going to make sure you can all see him, and we're going to go from there. Steve, you're on.
Great. Thank you very much. Apologize for my formal dress this evening, but I thought if this is how I've been teaching lately, then why shouldn't I at least be able to do something on a Sunday evening like this? So for those of you that are dressed in suit and tie, that's very professional of you. Okay, this started out many years ago when I was in the accounting profession. I have, just my background was I spent 38 years in public accounting. I was with my first employer, who I started with when I was in college at Baruch College. I was an intern there, and after 28 years or so, became the managing partner of the firm. And we had then merged with a major national firm, and unfortunately the culture changed and most of us left within a year or so. But I've been in public accounting my whole career and have loved it. But this tonight is not just about public accounting. This is about life. This is about any business that you're in, any career that you have. It's very important to network. And networking is important for two reasons. So first of all, the obvious reason is, and I think the definition, let's say, that you might be familiar with is that if you network, then you'll meet people and maybe they can help you find a job. And certainly networking is great for meeting people and trying to find employment. That's absolutely great. But secondly, networking is very important because at some point in your career, no matter where you work, if you work for any form of consulting firm, so whether it's a data analytics firm, a marketing firm, law firm, accounting firm, it doesn't matter, you will need to generate business opportunities to move yourself up within the organization and to make more money. And I can assure you that networking is the only way to do it. So let's talk about what that means. When I was a kid, there were no cell phones and we didn't have computers. So if I wanted to network, I needed to do it the old-fashioned way, go to an event that I heard about, bring my business cards, exchange business cards, make phone calls, call people, set up lunches, get to know people, etc. And I was very lucky that I was pushed very hard early in my career, like when I was in about a 3-year person in an accounting firm. I was pushed hard by the two top people at the firm, and I decided to go for it because they said to me, if you want to make more money, do this. And that was very important to me. So by knowing a lot of people, it was in the banking industry or in the legal industry, those were influencers and people that could generate business opportunities for an accountant. That worked out very well for me. So if a partner of mine said, my client needs help with banking, this is the type of arrangement they need, do you know anybody? that was a great compliment, because I had partners coming to me when I was not even a partner yet and asking me this because they knew that I had the contact. So having contact is a major reason for networking. Of course, if I wanted to switch accounting firms, which I did after 28 years, I actually had from somebody that I had met years. But again, knowing people. People knew me, I knew them, and it was very easy to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm looking to make a change, let's sit down and talk. And of course, that worked out fine. Today, it's a different world. You are all networked. You don't think about it maybe, but you all are, if you're on Facebook or Instagram or some of the other social media out there, even on LinkedIn. It's very important today to get on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I'll call it as the business person's Facebook. It's a more serious platform. It's a more business-like platform, but it's important to be on it because you want to be able to present yourself as best you can. So you may not have a lot of contacts on LinkedIn. I would certainly recommend that you go on it and try to get contacts, people that are your peers, your age group, etc., because someone is going to be looking for an opportunity, let's say in a marketing firm. There's a number of ways to do that, of course. You wait for the career services department to have marketing firms come to school, and then you interview with them. But another way is to start reaching out to people that you know on LinkedIn to say, here's my resume, this is what I've done, this is what I really like, can you introduce me to certain companies, whether it's marketing companies, advertising agencies, etc. As an example, a good friend of mine asked me if I could help his daughter. His daughter happens to be at Stern. And I said, sure. He thought she was an accounting major. It turns out she's not. She's a marketing major. She loves marketing. And I went on LinkedIn and I spoke to somebody that I didn't even know, but that I had been connected with for some reason. And I said, I have somebody looking for an internship for the summer. Put her in touch with me. And supposedly, I say supposedly because of the virus, but supposedly she has something for this summer. So that would be amazing. I don't know if it's paid or unpaid, but again, it's about networking. It's about matching people with other people. And you can do it and you should do it starting now because, first of all, it's very easy to do. You don't have to pick up a phone and talk to anybody. You don't have to meet somebody in person and look at them in the eye and shake their hand. It's very easy to do because you get to say the things that either you're very comfortable saying or you may be uncomfortable saying, but you get to do it in writing, and it's much easier than meeting face-to-face with somebody. For some people, it's not that hard doing it face-to-face. So it's a great opportunity to start building that group of people that over time you will help them and they will help you. It goes both ways. Networking is a two-way system, and very often you find that you're the one who's giving first. So, for example, when I had clients as a young partner in a firm, I was 30 years old, and my clients would ask me to help them finding a bank or finding an insurance person. I knew people, so I was able to give them that. I was able to introduce them to bankers, insurance people, attorneys, etc. At some point, if I needed a favor, for example, I needed to get paid by the end of my fiscal year, I needed to have everything paid, I asked them for a favor, and they knew they can count on me, and I was able to count on them. And I know that's not networking per se, but it's important to understand that when you do for somebody, they will do for you. You give favors, you get favors. And that's what life is all about, for better or worse. It's not what you know always, sometimes it's who you know. And this is about building that list of who's that you need to know, and you will know for the rest of your career. So very important. You may be a shy person. You may be somebody that may not push for yourself. May not push for yourself. But it's important that you be your own advocate because nobody's going to push for you. You're just another person in a firm, and you need to be your own advocate and do the things that will help you move along. And I can promise you, in any business, again, I'm using marketing, data analytics, accounting, and I'm sure there are many others on this call, but finance, any of those majors, if you generate opportunities for the firm, you will do better, you will make more money, and you will move up faster. That's just the way it is, because you're helping the business make money. So with that said, the objective here is to get you to meet as many people as you can beginning right away, network with as many of these people as possible. What does network mean? Well, like I said, in the old days, networking meant going to breakfasts, lunches, and dinners with them. Today, it's much easier. You do everything over social media. You become friendly with people, and it will definitely pay off later in your career when you can either develop business with them, giving and taking, or helping them find the job or them finding you a job. Again, introducing to their contacts. So that's what it's all about. So now let me go to the quick slideshow. And let me just clarify by saying that this was originally intended, the 10 Commandments of Networking, this was intended for people that are working in an organization. It still applies. It applies to you guys because you're only a couple of years away from this. So it's very important to start thinking about this now. I always say to people, you're on Facebook, you talk to people, you have a zillion contacts. Instead of telling them, you know, all right, I'm leaving my house and I'm going for a walk now, or I'm going here on vacation, talk a little about what you're doing. I want to let my network know that I'm majoring in such and such. I've decided this is what I want to do. If anybody can be of assistance, you know, somehow put something together. And I'm certainly happy to look at anything for anyone. If you'd like to send me something, I'll be happy to take a look at it for you. But it's important to do that today while you're still young and while it doesn't matter, because it will matter in a couple of years. So get started now, get a head start on it, because I promise you, you'll be way ahead of everybody else. So, number one, nothing in business is personal. And what I mean by that is, I can't tell you how many times I have pitched business, gone out, and I've gotten thousands probably of opportunities over the years to meet with potential clients. And you go out, you meet with them, and they turn you down. It's not personal. It's just business. So you can't take it personally. You have to have a thick skin and realize that it's not meant as a personal smack in the face, but it's just business. Even though, by the way, I could have been the one that messed up. Maybe in the presentation, I didn't do what I was supposed to do and I didn't come off like I should have. It's still not personal. It's still, at the end of the day, business. You have to know how to be a good listener. That's very important. Well, let me just go down here. Let's do this. Number one, be sincere. And with anybody you meet and you think it's a business relationship, it's different than a friend on Facebook. Be very businesslike, be sincere, be yourself. But you have to, you know, we've all met people, certainly I have over the years, that you say, I don't know what this person stands for. I've met people that could tell me that they're Republican or they can tell me they're Democrat, as an example, and they'll make a good argument for both sides, and they will whenever it's necessary. But who are you really? What are you? What do you believe in? What's your belief system and the organization that you work for? Tell me about that organization. So it's important for yourself as a person to be able to do that. When you first connect with someone, I'm being asked on LinkedIn, and there's somebody like me graduating looking for a job, how would you politely get them to engage in a conversation and talk to you? Good question. I'm assuming there may be more than one senior on this call. I think you have to try something unusual. I just saw something recently on LinkedIn, and somebody posted a picture of his dog with a sign around his neck that says, "Hire me." Now, you know, I looked at it and I sort of snickered, but it was cute. It was, and a headhunter that I'm very friendly with posted it, and that's why I saw it. I wasn't connected to this guy, so therefore somebody that I was connected to posted it, and therefore I saw it. I thought it was really good. So what does it mean? Does it mean that person's good, not good? I don't know, but that person has my attention. So you have to think of something a little unusual. And of course, it depends on the person that you're meeting with. Is it a peer, somebody your age, or is it somebody that's already working for a company? Somehow you have to try to attach yourself to them and make them want to look at what you're offering. So that's important. That goes back to something else I was going to say, which is called the 30-second elevator pitch. You know, you're in an elevator in a building and you're talking to somebody and, you know, just making small talk. Hey, nice day out there. What do you do? What do you say? Well, you have 30 seconds because the elevator moves quickly. That's called a 30-second elevator pitch. Doesn't have to be 30 seconds. It could be 60 seconds. But basically, it's how do you describe yourself and what you do in 30 to 60 seconds in a in a manner that is impressive, not a lot of hemming and hawing, not a lot of that. You got to get to the point. And it's not something that comes easily. For some people, maybe more than others, but it's something that you sit down, you think about, you write out, and even not working right now, you're still in school, to describe who you are and how you can help an organization, any organization. That's important to do. And then you put that on LinkedIn in your profile and describe that and see where that goes. We can talk more about that offline. So your personal priority to go the extra mile is so important. At this point in your lives, and let's pretend you're all getting out of school this year. I know you're not, but you're young. You have the time and the ability to go that extra mile, to put in the extra work, to work a little harder, to do your homework, do your research, to really develop yourself as a professional. Now is the time to do it. I don't know if anybody on this call is married yet. Again, some of you as seniors might be, I don't know. But certainly if you're not, now is the time to invest in yourself, invest in your future. For those in accounting, when you're getting out of the 5-year program, take the CPA exam. Don't wait, because in 2-3 years, you don't know where life takes you. You might have a wife or a husband, children. You don't know where you're going to be. So it's very important to spend the time as soon as you get out doing what you have to do to better yourself and make yourself to that next level within your profession. And that applies to any profession, regardless of what you're doing. If it's finance and you're working for a finance company and they want you to take the series of licenses, Series 7 among others, do it right away. Don't wait, because it only gets harder. And a lot of these tests that you're going to be taking, many of them are very academic. So you find, even though you may not have learned it in school, but you do find that these are tests that, again, you sit, you study, you're used to studying, you came out of school, you can do this. Somebody tells me that they found it difficult to describe themselves and sound unique. Everybody's coming from a university with a generic business and a finance degree. How do you stand out in describing yourself? It's a hard question. I don't know that there's an easy answer. I think the fact that you spent a year overseas in a gap year, you wouldn't say I spent the year learning Gemara in a gap year. That's not the way to describe it. You spent a year traveling. You spent a year learning Jewish studies and philosophy. I mean, you can, you can twist that a little bit to make yourself sound a little different. There are things maybe that might differentiate you from others. I'm not certain. I think generally, though, your comment is correct. Most people coming out of school call it same, okay? You've gone through 4 years of college, you spent your year in Israel, okay, now what? But everybody's different. Everybody can be a little different. And it's important to try to think through what differentiates you. And I'm not sure that there's a short list of adjectives that we could use. I don't know, but it's important to think that through. You have to be a good listener. So what that means is I have a tendency to talk. That's who I am. And I have to force myself not to at times. So when I'm out pitching business and I have 2 or 3 other people on my team with me, and we're sitting with the potential client, my first reaction is to jump in. Client starts telling me what they need, and I'm jumping in, telling them how I can fix it. That's not the right way to do it. You have to listen, come up with a plan, let others do some talking as well. Understand the wants and the needs of the person that you're talking to. So for example, when you're interviewing with an employer, same thing applies. Understand what their wants and needs are, and don't miss what is the ultimate objective. The objective is to get in there and work for them. So people will always say to me, I have an interview with XYZ company. Where do I find information? What information do I have about them? I said, number one, go to the internet, because obviously everything about that company is there. Look into any data points you can find on the web about them that they post, and then any articles that are written about them. Go through it and put together a few questions. They don't always have to be great questions. They don't have to be genuine questions. So for example, I tell people one of the biggest issues that's out there now is that what they call the Wayfair case, which is Wayfair is, as many of you may know, they sell furnishings and other odds and ends, and they sell all over the country. But Wayfair is located in 1 or 2 locations in the country, not in New York, New Jersey, as far as I know. But they have to collect sales tax now in every state. So if they sell to Oklahoma, they have to collect Oklahoma sales tax. It's called the Wayfair case. It's very big with Amazon. Amazon now has to collect sales tax in every state. It used to be only states that they were in, not anymore. Well, a lot of accounting firms, for example, they have state and local tax areas, departments that handle state and local tax issues, and they talk about these cases all the time online. So it's a good thing to go in and read about it and then talk about it. You know, have your clients been severely impacted by this? Have they been able to set up competent systems to handle the sales tax that comes in from all these states and then be able to allocate it to the governing bodies? I mean, you make up stuff as you go along, but if you know what the issue is, you're able to talk about it. It's important to try to have your customer, or in this case, your prospective employer, talk at least 50% of the time. Don't hog the conversation like I'm doing right now. It's different, obviously, but it's very important to do that. The people love to talk, as I know. People love to talk. And when I get a prospect talking and they just keep going on and on telling me everything, they're comfortable. They're comfortable with me. That's why they're doing it. Because if they weren't comfortable, they would have cut the meeting short. So I try to ask questions here and there to try to get them to talk more. The more they talk, the more I know I'm accomplishing my goal, which is to get them to be comfortable with me. Because people don't tell you things if they're not comfortable with you. So it's very, and this again, this applies also to going out and meeting with prospective employers. Let them do the talking. You think of things that you can ask them while they're speaking, of things they discussed. But the more they tell you about what they're doing, the more comfortable they are. And that's very important. So you have to know who the decision makers are. So for example, let's talk again about whether it's interviewing for a job or interviewing a prospective client, customer, etc. First of all, you got to be very prepared. It says here, peruse the prospect's website and other published materials. Study, not peruse. Peruse means to scan. Study means to go through it in depth. Make sure you understand exactly what's going on with that company. And again, if you're interviewing with a company, even better. It's important. You don't have to spend many hours. Just spend an hour on each company. There's a lot of information that's out there about them. Google if they've been sued. Google if they've sued somebody. And, you know, to bring up things like that, not that they've been sued, but to bring up that you heard that you're suing, I hear you're suing XYZ company for some patent infringement. That's impressive to talk about that. And, you know, just to have general knowledge about it. You don't need in-depth knowledge about patents or law. You just need to know what the company is going through. So that's very important. Know who makes the final decision to hire, whether it's hiring an employee or hiring an accounting law firm, marketing firm, IR firm, whatever it may be. Knowing who makes that final decision is important, because you don't want to use all your ammunition on the young people who are introducing the company, and then when the owner comes in or the decision maker comes in, you have to repeat the same thing all over again. It doesn't sound so good to the other person who's sitting in the room. So you want to try to understand who your audience is and who you really have to impress to do this. And again, this goes back to networking. So what does this have to do with networking, you'll say to me? Well, for one thing, understand who the people are at the company. One way to do that is on LinkedIn, and you can do it on Facebook as well. Try to see, if you put in the name of the company in LinkedIn, it'll show you all the people that are on LinkedIn from that company. So you'll get a sense of who the people are. So if you know you're meeting with Sam Jones and Sam Jones shows up, at least you have a chance to see, who is Sam Jones? What is this person's role in the organization? You might think Sam Jones is the CEO and Sam Jones is actually the secretary to the CEO. I mean, there is a big difference. So there are ways that you can really find out a lot of information about the company and the people that you're going to be meeting with, so that, again, you are well-versed before you walk in. And always be direct and honest. I will tell you that I've had a number of times where I try to fudge my way through things, doesn't work well. I'm not talking about lying. That's a whole different thing. I'm talking about pretending that I know what they're talking about when I have no clue. You know, when you sit there going like this, just shaking your head a lot, and at some point somebody says to you, do you understand what the acronym ABCD means? And I say, no, I'm not really. Can you, and you look like an idiot. So it's important to be direct and honest and open, comfortable and confident with yourself enough to be able to say, could you just explain that to me as they go through it, as opposed to having them call you on it, because they will. Becoming an expert differentiates you from everybody else. This applies to your first job and then going on to your next jobs. Very important to become an expert in most areas of business. So in accounting, you'll find you go in and you get to select, or they'll assign you to a particular industry group. If you like it, great. If you don't, you can ask to be moved to another industry group. But you want to try to find one area that will be the area that you really enjoy. Because when you become an expert, obviously people seek you out. And that's very important. You become much more valuable to an organization as an expert. And again, the same thing applies to finance. The same thing applies to marketing. You don't hear about people in finance working for Goldman Sachs and, they're traders. Well, what do you trade? Oh, I trade everything. No, everybody has a very narrow band of what they deal with. So you should pick out what it is that you think you'd like. And maybe you don't get to pick. Maybe they assign you. And if you find it interesting, become the best you can be at it. And by doing that, your strengths will create opportunities. Opportunities, again, when people want an expert, they will call you. When you want to move on to another organization, you're an expert. It doesn't mean you're the top, the best. It just means that is your expertise. You'll be able to say, I'm an expert in this, and find other places that need that expertise as well. So being a generalist 40 years ago was great. Not today. Not today at all. Today, you need to be an expert. And there are so many narrow areas of expertise today. So it's very important that people understand that you can't just be a generalist. In any profession, you need to ultimately, it's okay to be a generalist for 2 or 3 years, but ultimately you want to become an expert in whatever area you're in. So you want to use your references. You have references. Who are your references? Well, parents, in this early stage, teachers, friends of family. This is in the early stage. Once you start working, your references are the people that work for you. You want to use them as best you can going forward. So you want to build them. And of course, this has to do again with networking and becoming close with people and doing for them so they'll do for you. And that's just life. You find satisfied clients are often drivers for new business. Satisfied clients are often your best references. So no matter what business you're in, you're going to have clients. Now, some businesses, your client could be somebody internally where you need to do the work so that the trader at the desk next to you can do his job or her job. Well, okay, then that becomes your client. You need to do the best you can for your client. Certainly in an accounting firm, in a marketing firm, you're going to be doing the best you can for your client. We know what the client is there. Question is, are we expected to have an expertise coming out of college? No, absolutely not. You become an accountant, a finance major, you're an accountant and a finance major. When you go to work in your first job, they will narrow you down by putting you in an area that, again, one specific industry group or one specific area of trading, and then hopefully you can become an expert in that area if you enjoy that particular area. So that's very important. Let's just stop for a second. If anybody wants to go off mute and ask a question, please feel free. Okay. Do favors for people. So what I learned over the years is that, and it almost became an obsession with me in some ways, that I always wanted to be the one that people owed. So if I did something for you, you owed me something. That doesn't mean you're going to ever pay me per se. I don't mean it in a payment fashion, but that if I come to you for a favor, it's going to be hard for you to say no. And I've had this many times over the years. I've helped many people helped their kids get jobs. I've helped many people with business opportunities, introducing opportunities to them, etc. And I've gotten a lot back in return. And it's not something I've ever kept track of. I have mental track, maybe. I can tell you this person's been great. We've had a great relationship. And then I've had others where it only went one way. I never could get anything back. And that's okay. That happens. But it's very important to understand that when you do for someone, eventually they'll do for you, or at least you'll feel comfortable going to them, asking them for something. It's important to make it personal. So take note of anniversaries, birthdays, etc. I can tell you that the best relationships I ever developed in business were with those that I went out with on a Saturday night with my wife and their spouse. Excuse me. You know, you develop a personal relationship. You get involved with their families. They get involved with yours. They came to my kids' bar and bat mitzvahs. They came to my girls' weddings, etc. Back and forth. And those are the best kinds of relationships. I will say also that they always tell you don't do business with family and friends. And I can promise you that if you do, it's great if it works. And I can tell you also that when it doesn't work, it's very, very painful. So it's probably a good rule not to do that, to be honest. Yes, so the comment here is, one second. Two comments. First comment is, when having a connection on LinkedIn or any connection, when would be an appropriate time to ask for an opportunity, since it wouldn't be good to ask at the start of a relationship? Well, I will tell you that on LinkedIn, many people say that it's important, and I'll get back to the next question. Many people will say on LinkedIn, I don't know why people contact me and say, can you introduce me to so-and-so? You don't even know me. And, you know, so people take that personally. But I think a young person coming out of school, reaching out to people, it's a little bit different. So first of all, as an example, if you know me and I know John, and you want to get to John, then you come to me and say, Steve, could you introduce me to John? And I'm happy to do that. So I call John and say, hey, John, I know this young person for a few years, great person. They'd like to meet with you. I think they might be great for your organization. Why don't you meet with them? See, it's always better in a warm introduction than a cold introduction. A cold introduction is you reaching out to John and saying, hello, Mr. Smith, my name is, and I'd like to meet with you. That's not going to get you too far on the LinkedIn. Okay, but if you go through somebody, so that's why I say you start building contacts today on LinkedIn, and those contacts are young people. Okay, you're building contacts with young people, maybe friends or business associates of your parents. That's okay. That's all right. People have friended me. Well, it's not called friended, but connected with me on LinkedIn. Happy to do it. I don't care, because then you get to see my contacts. And if you want to meet with somebody, happy to introduce you. And I've done it many, many times for people much older than you and you know, your status in life as well. I'm happy to introduce you to anybody. It's just a matter of how you go about doing it. So if I know somebody, or even if I don't, I'm happy to say, hey, we're contacts, we haven't met, but I'd like to introduce you to so-and-so. So again, it's all about networking. We're all in this together. Everybody networks for the same reason. And everybody believes that if you give, you'll get. So if I introduce one of you to somebody that you'd like to meet, this marketing person, for example, that you want to meet because she runs a great firm and that's what you want to be involved with, and you want to work with somebody in that area because their area of specialty is something that you're interested in, they'll definitely come back to me and respond to me. So it's just interesting. So that was one of the comments. And then the other comment that somebody had was, yes, don't take it personally, but yes, make it personal. So let me explain what that means. It's not a contradiction. When I say don't take it personally, what I mean by that is if you get rejected, even on an interview, it doesn't mean you were bad. It means somebody else may have been better. Now, you might have been bad, to be honest, okay? I interviewed a guy who worked for me for many years. We were very friendly. He asked me if I could interview his son for an internship at Cone Resnick. Happy to do so. I bring him in, a few people meet with him. I asked him afterwards, how'd it go? It was terrible. I said, why? Kid had nothing to say. He never did any research about the firm. He was very quiet. All he asked was one question. Is this a paid or an unpaid internship? Now that's not very cool. So I called up his father and I said, Ed, we have a problem. You got to talk to him. Yeah, he's a shy guy. Yeah, I'll have to talk to him. So, but I was happy to make the introduction for him. So doing favors for people is good, but you can't take it personally. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. You can't take it personally if you get rejected, or if you, whether it's you interview for a position or you're interviewing a potential new client and you get turned down. It's okay. You move on to the next one. You pick yourself up and you move on, because there's always going to be others. What I'm saying is, where you have relationships like here, clients or people internally that you're friendly with, make it personal, because it's a lot more fun. When I go out with clients and we have business together and I'm helping them do all sorts of things, helping them with their business, taking them public, taking them private again. I mean, doing all sorts of things with them over the years. And we go out and we sit down over a dinner. We have a great time. We have a wonderful personal relationship. So it makes it a lot more fun to do business that way with people that I'm friendly with. So that's where I try to differentiate. I'm not sure that I've made it as clear as possible, but that's what I'm trying to say. Try to become a confidant. Try to become a trusted advisor to people that you work with. And I gave a class. It was a class at Baruch College to the graduate school on it's called Management of an Accounting Practice. And one of the things we talk about is becoming a trusted advisor, becoming a confidant to the client. It's not something that happens just because you walk in and say, hey, I'm here, I'm your accountant, I'm ready to help you. Becoming a confidant takes time, and it takes a relationship. You wouldn't trust somebody just because a guy comes over or a woman comes over and you start talking and you know some people in common, but there has to be more to it. You have to develop a relationship. So that's why I say develop relationships with people, and that's where they trust you. They tell you everything. And I've had clients tell me all sorts of crazy things, much more than I ever wanted to know, but we had a relationship and they knew they could trust me. So that's very important. And again, that's not going to happen the day you get out of school and start working, but it happens over time. And if you're lucky, it'll happen sooner than later, because that shows that you're listening. Teamwork is very critical in everything you do. So you go out there and you start working, no matter what industry you're in. If you're in the marketing business, you're in data analytics, you're not out there by yourself. Finance, accounting, law, you're not out there by yourself. You're part of a team. It's very rare that you're going to be asked to do something where there aren't going to be other team members working with you. So it's critical that you understand, and the old acronym, there's no I in team, but it's very critical that you understand how important it is to value your team members and work together closely, because you want to be viewed as a good team member. You want to be viewed as somebody that people like to work with, and that's very important. And also, the best way that things get done, and probably the only way things get done, is through the team pulling together. So you bring all your resources to bear, and all your smarts and their smarts, and interdependently, things get accomplished. So it's very important to know that. I couldn't go out and pitch business by myself because I was not a tax person. I could barely spell tax. So the problem is I needed to bring people along with me. And as a team, we were able to do it. Good question. How do you trust teammates in the early stages? You have no choice. You really have no choice, unfortunately. You have to trust people that you're working with closely. It is a problem. So, for example, I'm sure this applies in every business where you have X number of people starting, whether it's an accounting firm that starts 40 people in their New York office or a law firm that starts 100 people in the New York office. Obviously, there are those that kiss up more than others, that play the game better than others. For those of you that ever watched the show The Good Wife, I don't know if anybody saw it, maybe a little bit before your time, but that was a big part of it. There was a lot of that going on, and it was about a law firm, and it was a very interesting and very realistic situation. So I can't tell you, you have no choice but to trust the people, because if you're thrown together in a room and told to solve a problem, you have to trust each other. You want to be guarded a little bit up front. You don't want to put all your ideas on the table because somebody's going to run with them and say it was their idea. I mean, there are ways of going about that, but at the end of the day, you still have to play nicely, because otherwise you're going to look like the person in the room who doesn't play nice, or who doesn't come up with ideas, or who doesn't share. It's definitely a fine line. It's not an easy answer. Another question here. Let's see. No. Okay. So rejection. Rejection stinks, doesn't it? So number one, the key to becoming a good salesperson, and I want to just dissuade you of something that there's a misnomer out there. You know, I'm not in sales. I'm an accountant. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. I'm in marketing. I'm not a salesperson. I'm in finance. I'm in data analytics. No, I'm not a salesperson. Every day you walk out and you meet people, you are selling. You're selling yourself, and you need to know that. So whereas on a personal level with a friend, you might, you know, I'm sorry, let me take it back a step. There's an expression called your business voice. So I know I have a business voice versus my at home with my kids' voice. It's different. It's a little more formal, maybe a little slower. I'm not sure. But everybody has that business voice, and you develop it naturally. It's not something you learn. It's very important that the key to becoming a good salesperson, when you meet that person in the elevator, how about you're in the elevator going down for lunch, taking a deep breath for the first time during the day, it's 12:30, and the elevator stops at the next floor, and who walks on? The CEO of your company. Now, your legs are starting to shake, you're a little nervous, your hands are getting sweaty, and the CEO says, "Hi, I'm Joe Blow, CEO. Who are you?" You've got to be professional. And you're selling. Even though you're not selling anything, you're selling yourself. You shake hands, you look them in the eye, you don't give them the dead fish handshake. Right there, 3 things right away. You talk, you give them that 30-second elevator speech. I just started 2 months ago. I was hired to do ABC, you know, whatever it may be. But you're always selling. So again, this particular area of not fearing rejection, this was meant in terms of going out and selling to potential clients and others. This is about selling yourself to anyone. I had a guy come up to me at Baruch College who was looking for a job, and he's a 5th-year accounting major. He should have had a job by then. And he comes up to me and his head goes down like this, and he puts his hand out like this, and he shakes my hand. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Is that how you're interviewing?" I mean, I literally went at the guy in a nice way. I said, "You straighten out. Put your shoulders up. Look me in the eye. Give me a handshake." And then the guy did. Now, I learned this when I was a kid, and I got to shul with my father, and he would tell me, this is what you got to do. Some people maybe don't learn it that way. I think all Orthodox Jews should know it because you go to shul, you meet people, it's easy to do. But I have to tell you, there's a way to do it, and it can be amazing. We know that first interaction with somebody, it could be the ball game right there. You go over, you have a smile on your face, you're pleasant, you're firm. I mean, there's just, that's fabulous. You have just sold yourself, and that's worth a lot. And like the second item says, the second bullet point says, be aware of other opportunities that may arise from positive interactions. So you never know when you meet somebody. You meet that CEO on the elevator and you make a great impression. Just because that person's the CEO and you're just a lowly associate in your mind, that doesn't mean that that person's going to forget meeting you. You'd be very surprised. Avoid lamenting a loss and learn from the past, whether it be proposals, presentations, could be losing out on a job opportunity. There's no such thing as, oh, I missed the one. There's no one. Everything is the one. You miss one opportunity, there's others to be had. You will pick yourself up and get on to the other one. I always said to my kids when they were little, when they were in college or near that age, you know, I'm glad you didn't get this because this is the first time that you didn't get what you wanted. And it's important to know that you're not always going to get what you wanted. So a lot of times you get through school, you got to the high school you wanted, you got to the college you wanted, you got, whether it be the major or to the Israel school you wanted. Sometimes it's okay not to get what you want because maybe that's what you wanted and maybe it was meant to be, maybe it wasn't. There's plenty other things out there. So I went and I did not get, I had plenty of offers when I was getting out of school. There was one small firm that was run by a frum guy, and I liked the idea that it was frum. There was a lot of frum people in the firm, and I said, "Wow, this is great. You know, let me meet this firm." And I went and I met with them, and the guy said to me, "We only hire A students," and I was a 3.5 maybe. maybe 3.2 overall, 3.5 in accounting. And I never forgot. 35 years later, I met him. I was at a luncheon. We were sitting next to each other, and I was running my firm, which was a 600-person firm, and he was running a 100-person firm. And I told him that story. I didn't have to say, I told you so. I didn't have to say, you see, you missed out. I just told him the story and smiled. Okay. It didn't mean anything to him. I'm sure he was very successful. I'm sure he made a great living, and I wasn't going to change that if he had hired me. But I just thought it was my opportunity to say, ha, I got you. So that felt good. So again, I was rejected, but I moved on, and I got what I needed and what I wanted, and it worked out fine for me. So learn from your mistakes always. It's very important. If you miss out on an opportunity, if you didn't get that job offer, try to call them and say, I'm really sorry. I'm hoping down the road in the future, maybe I'll be able to have an opportunity to work for you. But can you tell me what I could do better on my next interview? Great question to ask. Not everybody will do that, I promise. So picking up the phone or emailing and trying to get some feedback, and you won't always get through. You won't always get the feedback. They're busy. But trying to do that is a great way to say, hey, help me. What can I do? There you go. Just answered your question. Okay. Very important to do that. But again, don't feel bad if they don't come back to you. Don't think, wow, I must have really done poorly because they didn't get back to me. So not to worry about it, but definitely it makes you look smart. It makes you look polished. It makes you look like you really want to learn from your mistakes. And you got to roll with the punches because, guys, this is life. I mean, just look at what we're going through now. Who would have thought 2 months ago that we'd be where we are today? And I remember thinking before Pesach, boy, well, we should be done by after Pesach. I have my mother living with me for 7 weeks already. Guys, you live with your parents maybe now. I haven't lived with my mother in 40 plus years. This is not fun. And I love my mother. But, you know, you got to roll with it. That's all. It just, you take what life gives you. So hopefully I don't believe that this pandemic will impact those that are going to be starting work, hopefully, when they graduate. Hopefully, many of you have job opportunities already. It certainly won't impact those that are a year or two away from it. I think we'll be fine by then, certainly, and firms have to hire. Everybody still has to hire people in the future. So I think that'll be fine. But you gotta roll with the punches, as we see. We have to take what we are given and move forward with it and do the best we can. Always be positive, people, enthusiastic, passionate about who you are and what you do. So when you go out there, and let's talk about that first job, you hopefully enjoy the field that you've chosen. And you may not, by the way. You may decide, you know what, this just isn't for me. I thought I'd like it, but I really want to do something else. And that's okay. Try to be as enthusiastic and passionate about it to others when you talk to them. Not when you're networking, obviously, for something different, but you want to make yourself look as good as possible because people relate to winners. We all know people, and maybe I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's just as easy for you as it is for me to say, I know people that are upbeat, and I know people that there's always a cloud of rain over their head. There's always a thunderstorm above them. And I had partners like that. They were smart, good people. But, you know, how's your day? Terrible. Every day it's terrible. I mean, come on, it can't be that bad. But this is the way certain people are. So you don't want to be that person. You have to be passionate. You want to convey an enthusiastic message about you, about your organization, about people, etc. You want to look the part to project the right image. So if you look the part, then you play the part. And I know in many professions, they say, in order to get to the next level, you have to act like the next level. So in order to be a manager in an accounting firm, you have to manage. So they usually give you a few clients to manage and oversee staff before you become a manager. The same thing here. You look the part to project the right image. Now, I am clearly not the right image tonight wearing my sweatshirt. But that being said, it's very important to do that. So, you know, when you go out there, you want to make sure that you convey an enthusiastic, upbeat personality, and even if it's hard for you to do, because not everybody is naturally enthusiastic and upbeat. Some people can play it better, like me. You can just play it better, you know? It just work it. or fake it till you make it, as my daughter tells me. So you want to look the part, project the right image, want people to see the person that you want them to see. Ask for the order. So what that means in the business world is when I'm going out and I'm meeting with a client, a prospective client, you can market all you want, but you need to close. So what does that mean? It means at the end of the meeting, I'll say to them, I can't spell obviously, as you can see here, remember doesn't have two M's like that. I'll say to them, what are the next steps? How do I get your business? Is there anything else that you need from me? You don't just sit back and say, okay, thanks, have a good day, it was great meeting you. You don't just sit back and wait to be engaged. And the same thing applies to interviewing. When you go out and interview, is there anything else I can get you? Would you like personal references? Who else? I really am very impressed with the company, and I know I could be a great addition to this organization. What do I need to do to get to that point? Or something like that. And again, it depends how you read the person that you're meeting with. So if it's, the senior partner, you may not want to be so forceful. And if it's somebody, in HR, maybe you can be more forceful. Or maybe it's the opposite, depending on the personality of the person. I had a situation many, many years ago. I was walking the halls waiting for a meeting for an interview. This goes back when I was getting out of college. And I came across a corner office, gorgeous corner office looking over Park Avenue. And there was nobody in the office. So I took 2 steps in and I start looking around. My luck, the partner comes in. Hi, who are you? I introduce myself. He says, you're interviewing? Yeah. He says, tell me, where do you see yourself in 10 years? You know what I said? In this office. He laughed. I got the job on the spot, not from him, from the person I was meeting with. Now, he could have said, what a snotty kid, get out of here. And that would have been acceptable too. But I just took a shot because I just felt comfortable because we were talking for 2 minutes. And so it just made me comfortable that this was a confident person that I could say that to. Clearly, I wasn't getting that office. I was a kid out of school. So again, it depends on how you feel about the person you're meeting with. And as we know, everybody you meet with is different. We all have different roles in every relationship we have, okay? And some relationships that you have in your personal life, you may be the leader, and in others, you may be the follower. And that's okay. That's just the way it is. With friends, sometimes you're in charge, sometimes they're in charge. And that's just the way the relationship is. The same thing in business. But one thing is for sure, if you don't ask, you don't get. That applies to everything in life. Okay, so this is the most important thing to remember, and this applies, again, to everything, including interviewing, getting that first job, getting that second job, everything, looking to bring in business, clients, networking and meeting people and trying to make them understand who you are and what you can do for them and their organization. You pull out all the stops. You keep your eyes on the prize. Prize does not have a C, I know. You keep your eyes on the prize. Always remember what you came for. So as an example, I'll give you an example of this. I had a client many, many years ago, and they were a killer. It was actually, they're still around, I think. I'm not sure. It's owned by different people. Rokeach gefilte fish. Okay, you may or may not know the name, but in any event, they were a client of mine 20, 30 years ago, and they were killers. They would beat the crap out of me every chance they could. And I was the partner, and I don't mean it literally, but I mean it was a difficult relationship. And I'm on the phone with them one day, and I have one of my partners on the phone with me because he was my technical partner, and they're doing their thing. And the guy is all over me. I got to get this. If I don't get it done, we're going to sue you, and on and on and on and on. And we hang up the phone, and my partner looks at me, and I'm smiling, and he says, how do you take it? And I said, I got to keep my eye on what I need at the end of the day. I'm going to bill him $100,000 extra for all the work we had to do. And the only way I'm going to get that done is to get this thing accomplished. So if I don't keep my eye on the ball and get it done, I'm never going to see my money. That's what I'm here for. I could have hung up the phone. I could have gotten insulted. I could have started yelling and cursing at him. That doesn't accomplish anything. Keep your eye on the prize. What is it you came for? What did you show up for? And hone in on that opportunity. Make sure you're focused on that, because that, at the end of the day, is what you want. Always look at every angle to seek out an advantage in any way you can. When you're looking at a job opportunity, or again, a new business opportunity, or an opportunity to meet with somebody on LinkedIn or on Facebook, try to figure out, what can I offer to them? What do I have that maybe is helpful to them? And I'm not sure what that may be. Maybe it's nothing, but think about that. Always think in that light, because if you start doing that now, you'll always do it. Outwork your competition. And I've said to you before, you're young, now is the time to do it. Work very, very hard. Can networking help for grad school where the system is so impersonal? I don't think networking will help. You mean to get into a grad school? I'm not sure if that's what you mean. Probably not. I mean, certainly in terms of, the papers you do and all those things, I wouldn't think of that as networking. Networking will help you mostly for that first job. That's really where networking gets you started. And after that, everything you do is affected by networking. So I think getting into grad school itself, I mean, if you know people that went to the grad school, alumni, or, I don't know, I'll use a crazy example. Somebody in your school happens to be an adjunct professor at the school or whatever, then certainly that would be networking. And it's well worthwhile talking to that person. But otherwise, I wouldn't say so. Question, hey, professor, where do you draw the line between keeping your eye on the prize and being looked at by coworkers as clients as a pushover that they can take advantage of? No, I don't think it. I think it's on the contrary. If you keep your eye on the prize and you look for every angle, actually, it might be the opposite. People might look at you as the killer, not the pushover. You stay focused. You keep focused on what you came for. Don't let nonsense and just, idiocy unfocus you and take your eye off the ball. You will do fine. You will be great. And your clients will notice it, and people internally will notice it. That's the most important thing. I mean, I can talk about my own experiences, which were, I worked extraordinarily hard, but today you'll work hard no matter what you do. I happen to have been in public accounting, worked hard all year long, especially during busy season. I was networking, I was meeting with people, I was doing a lot of different things at one time, and I made it what I wanted it to be. I didn't want to be the guy who was the very technical guru. I wanted to be the guy who was generating the opportunities, because that made me more important to the clients and it made me more important to the firm. And that's what I ultimately wanted to be. I wanted to be more important within my organization. My clients should adore me because there's nothing I wouldn't do for them. And, that's how I did it. The opposite of what you just said was true, in that internally they all looked at me and said, what's with this guy? I don't understand why he's doing this. He doesn't have to do that. Yeah, but they didn't want it as bad as I did. So then that's okay. Goes back to outwork your competition, the same thing. Outwork your competition. Let's see, a couple of more questions here. Absolutely. That is a great summary of how to describe your time in Israel. Somebody asked me a question without mentioning names. Traveling, I don't know if you guys see this on there, I hope not. Traveling and studying Judaic texts and philosophy, including the Talmud, Hebrew language, Jewish law, and more. I would also throw in philosophy maybe instead of Talmud, but that's okay. I think it makes it sound very intellectual. So that's a great way. When so busy with school, accounting, working, how do you find time for networking and meeting people? So I'll tell you what I used to tell people, and they all laughed at me, every one of them. And this works especially with Orthodox people. So I would say to somebody who I was trying to mentor to help them get to the partnership level, and they were very smart. They did a great job on what they did, but a lot of people are smart, and a lot of people do a great job on what they do. Now tell me what else you do. Do you give lectures? Do you write articles? Do you bring in opportunities? Do you bring in business opportunities? That's the number one way to make it in an organization. And so the person would sit and look at me and say, well, I'm really busy. I'm I'm tired when I get home at night. I don't want to go to events at night. And I would say to the person, let me ask you something. You go to shul, right? And the person would say, sure, I go to shul. I said, if you want to daven with kavanah, you stay home. You go to shul so that you meet the people all around you who are business people. See, that guy there, he's in real estate. That guy there is in hedge funds. That guy over there, he owns a business. That guy behind you, he's in private equity. Those are people you need to be networking with. not during davening, at Kiddush, but get to know them. Now, of course, this person looked at me like I had 3 eyeballs, but that's the way to do it. We, in an Orthodox community, have it easier because you sit with people all the time. And you're going to have friends, your peers, who in 5 years are going to be out there, whether it be in law firms or in marketing firms or big shots in consulting firms. They're going to be doing stuff. You want to get to know them and make sure you're close to them today so that you guys do things together. They build, you build. They help you, you help them. That's the way to do it. So yes, clearly when you're working hard, it's difficult, but it's so much easier today because you don't have to go anywhere theoretically. You can do it all on social media. It's very easy to do that, much easier than it was years ago when I had an hour and a quarter lunch with somebody that I didn't really like, but I thought I could do business with them. So I sat through a lunch. We ended up doing business, but I didn't always love the people I was meeting with. Sometimes you get along better than others. And that's okay. Not everybody gets along with everyone, but it's much easier today than it ever was. Let's see, there's another question here. Sorry, okay. All right, so again, outworking your competition is very, very important. And that doesn't necessarily, it may, but it doesn't necessarily mean putting in more time. It means being smarter about how you do it, okay? Make sure that, I'll give you an example again. When you're working in an organization of any sort, and a new client, you hear about a new client that the organization just got, okay? You go to your manager, boss, whoever, and say, I would love to work on that opportunity. Now, you may or may not even be remotely close to getting that opportunity, but the fact that you said it makes a big difference. So when I was a youngster, a kid, in a 75-person accounting firm that became over 600, that 75-person accounting firm had a person who was responsible for staffing all the engagements. He was the administrative partner. And I would go into him and say, hey, Richie, I heard we just got this great public company. I have time. I could do it. I'd love to be involved. And he would say to me, what do you mean you have time? You have 3 other public companies with the same year end. You're so buried. Richie, I can get that done. Maybe half the time I got it. But he saw that I was willing to work very hard. He saw that I wanted to be on the best and the biggest and the most interesting assignments. I outworked the competition. I wasn't the smartest guy. I outworked the competition. Identify hot buttons to close the sale. That goes back to, again, I'm going to go back to talking about interviewing. How do you identify those hot buttons? By going through all the information you could possibly find about that company. And certainly going into LinkedIn and seeing who are the people that I'm meeting with. I'm meeting with John Smith. Oh, put John Smith in with the firm name and see what comes up. Oh, John went to, I don't know, such and such high school. That means he grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Brooklyn. You can make a connection with anybody today. Now, John may have gone to, I don't know, St. Francis, and that's okay, because St. Francis might be in Brooklyn. I don't know where it is, but I'm just using that as an example. Oh, you grew up in Brooklyn? I grew up in Brooklyn too. Where'd you grow up? It just makes it personal. People like it when it's personal. So again, I throw that out there just as an aside, but it's very important to try to identify something that will differentiate you. And then there's something called the thrill of the hunt, which means love every minute of it. I know it's stressful and it can be painful because you just don't know how it's going to end up, but try to love every minute of everything you do. I was very lucky. The first 28 years of my career, I never felt like I worked a day in my life. And believe me, I was putting in an average of 60 hours a week or more. But I loved every minute of it. I love the people I worked with. I still to this day have great relationships with many of them. It's a great feeling when you're part of something and you feel good about it. And you have to be very lucky to do that. But try the best you can to walk in with the best attitude you can and to really enjoy what it is that you're doing. Now, if I can get to it, I know there's a couple of questions. If anybody wants to unmute, please, now is a good time.
So, Professor, we've been taking some of the questions in the chat. So okay. I just wanted to, some of them actually, students sent to you directly.
Yes.
So students will submit questions via the chat. One question we got from the students is, how can you network if you're in Israel and for those people who want to make Aliyah?
Okay, so number one, today there are great opportunities, even if you want to making Aliyah. So I'll give you an example. people at, certainly in accounting firms, and I know you can do this in many organizations today, legal, marketing, data analytics, and many, many others. Hold on. Okay. Many others where you can work remotely. You can work from other places. So I just lost you guys. I can't see you guys anymore. How do I do this? 1 second. Okay. Can you guys still see me?
We absolutely can see you in the spotlight video.
All right, because I can't see anybody. Okay. So I think I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Israel. Today, there are many, many things that one can do remotely. As we're learning, as we sit here now, there are many things you can do remotely. So I had somebody in my organization come to me and say, and I won't even say who this person is because unfortunately this person was in the news recently. And he said to me, I would like to consider going to Israel. We're thinking of making Aliyah. Do you think I should talk to the firm about it? I said, absolutely. Number one, they're not going to fire you because you're talking to them about a maybe. Number two, maybe they'll say, do you think you can do what you do from Israel? Because that would be great. You'll work from, let's say 3 or 4 in the afternoon till midnight and get done presumably the same thing you can get done, and they'll work out an arrangement, and that would work out great. So today, more and more, especially once you're in an organization, it's easier to then say, after being there for a year or so, I'd like to, change locations. I'm thinking of moving overseas. Would I be able to, to continue doing this? I'm not sure. And by the way, some companies, and you can certainly research this, some companies have offices overseas. They may have offices, many companies have offices in Israel. Certainly, there are many accounting firms in Israel that are affiliates of firms here in the U.S. So there's no doubt that you could hook up anywhere with most firms. And the same thing applies to marketing, IR, investor relations, public relations, etc., advertising. You can do that from anywhere. So I think that would be good. How do you network from Israel, from being in Israel? I think, again, it's all online networking. It's all social media today. There's no reason why you can't. I have a lot of people on my LinkedIn network that I didn't even realize but are in Israel. And how did I find this out? I wrote a book. I call it a memoir. It's a book about me. It's an autobiography. I said to somebody over lunch, a friend of mine, hey, I wrote an autobiography. He said, about who? I said, you're an idiot. Nobody laughing back there. But anyway, I wrote an autobiography. I needed an editor. I went on LinkedIn. I found some people that I know. And I ended up sending it to somebody who I didn't realize was in Israel. It was great, really great. $35 an hour, which is dirt cheap. And she was thrilled to do it at that rate. I was thrilled to pay her rate, and it worked out beautifully. So you don't even know where people are half the time. So I would tell you that it's very important to network wherever you can, whenever you can, and try to meet as many people as you can. Please, that's important. And if anybody wants to talk about it offline, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Professor. At this time, I don't see any new questions, and I think you've covered sort of any of the questions that have come in. Last chance, everybody, before we call it a night.
It's 9:10. I hope nobody missed too much of The Last Dance. Let me just see. Is it off for the people you're meeting with to know that you look? No, not at all. Somebody had just asked if it's off-putting for people to know that you are looking at them on LinkedIn beforehand. Not at all. That's how people do it. Nobody just automatically hooks up with people on LinkedIn. What you do is you definitely try to get into their into them and see who they are and see what they do, and then you ask them, you message saying that you want to have you invite them, to connect with you. That's how it works. So it's absolutely important. And they can, by the way, see, because they're told who's been looking at them, they'll see who it is. And that's okay. That's what you want. So that's a very good thing to do. Any advice for students that had internships canceled? It's a really sad situation. Unfortunately, most places have canceled their internships. I would tell you that I know they're coming out with something at YU that I know Joshua can talk more about, but they are coming out with a program where you could apply, not for internships, but sort of a consulting program, a non-paying thing. And we're trying to do whatever we can. I know that they're talking about taking more summer classes, certainly if you can this summer. Try to make the best you can of this summer. It's not even like you can go work in a camp. You can't. There's nothing to do. So I would tell you
so
to try.
we should be announcing that to the whole student body in the weeks to come. And I do really appreciate you mentioning that. We will have sort of information on what we can do in terms of helping out for the summer. And look, if you're in the situation right now where you think your internship is going to be canceled or has been canceled, or you think camp is going to be canceled, please schedule an appointment with one of our advisors. We are fully operational Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5:30, and on Fridays, 9 to 2:30. We're taking advising appointments. We're reviewing resumes. We're meeting with students. That's a great sort of opportunity for you to come and meet with us.
Just a couple of more questions I want to answer. When is it better not to ask for clarity about something out of fear that others may not think of you as so bright? I think you feel, you got to feel the room, and it's. Anytime I've tried to do that, you sit there shaking the head like you know what you're talking about, it always came back to bite me. So I learned the hard way. As I always say to my class, if you have a question, just jump up and raise your hand and start asking it. Don't hesitate, because if you have that question, everybody else does as well. So you usually find that you're not the only one in the room that doesn't understand what the person is saying. No, I have not considered giving a class for an entire semester on networking. I'm not sure it's a semester's class, but I know that there are classes given on similar things. Joshua, you may know of this in the business school. I know that there are some classes given not on networking per se, but related to it. But no, I have not considered it, but I'd be happy to if somebody wanted me to. After you connect with someone on LinkedIn that you don't know, how do you initiate the connection further? Well, I think as an example, if you are, let's say the accounting business or any business, and so are they, and they've connected with you, I think it's appropriate to send them a note, not ask for anything right away. You don't want to make an ask too soon, but send them a note telling them about, who you are, what you're studying, and you're really excited about XYZ, and can they make any recommendations that might assist you in pursuing a career in this business, without asking them directly for a job. I think there's a way to do that. And again, I'm certainly happy offline to help you with anything. You can definitely feel free to email me, steven.mayer@yu.edu. I'm happy to help any of you with any of these kinds of questions. I'm sure there's a better answer than what I just gave you, but I have to just think about it. But definitely, when they reach out and they connect with you, they expect at some point you are going to reach out to them, or in theory, they'll reach out to you. So don't hesitate to do that.
Thank you, Professor. Any other questions coming in on your end?
That's it on my end.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this tonight. We really, really do appreciate it, and we appreciate the time that you took to spend with our students tonight and answer all of your questions. Again, students, thank you for coming tonight. We really do appreciate it, and we look forward to sort of servicing you in the Career Center with whatever may come your way. If you need to talk about what's going on this summer, if you're looking to get ready for recruitment in the fall, if you need just additional networking tips, or you want us to review that LinkedIn profile, we are always here for you. We have a live chat on our website now, which you can access during business hours. You can email us at any time. It's careercenter@yu.edu, or you can email me, joshua.meredith@yu.edu as well. Thanks for everyone coming out tonight. I hope everyone has a great evening and a good start to the week tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone.